Hey, hey, what's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, you're going to be taking a look at Cardano, ADA, against US dollar, Tether, on the Binance chart. You're going to be taking a look at some of the technical aspects of price action moving forward. Cardano, we got coming out of this very thick zone of accumulation, bouncing between, $1.47 and kind of above dollar there. And so after retesting some kind of key levels, we've now recovered from a significant kind of pullback, and we've now been pumping these kind of higher highs. And so now we're going to see if we can continue this pump, or if we're going to kind of come back as we are interacting with some kind of brief resistance at the moment. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you're doing with your Cardano. If you have Cardano, did you buy one of these tops? Did you sell at a top? Did you buy at a bottom? Are you trading? Are you not holding? Or have you been holding since way back? What are you doing with your bag if you have one? Jumping right into it to assess price action that's been interacting with this kind of ridiculous trend line that started back in the COVID crash of March of 2020. We've got price action above it all the way up until the 31st of August of 2020. We broke below it for a period of months before interacting with it at the beginning of January, and then it wasn't until the end of January, beginning of February, that we broke upward through this ascending trend line again. Trading all the way up till $1.45 there at the time, having the third of those kind of three pullbacks there, causing some sideways finally. Some healthy accumulation above a kind of key level, holding that $1 range was very bullish long term, and this prolonged kind of sideways from that kind of swing high is definitely very bullish. We had a couple months of sideways before breaking that swing high. And so I do believe that was very bullish long term, and I do suspect price action to might perhaps continue in kind of an upward fashion. And so, I mean, we could have another volatile run similar to kind of price action back in the kind of end of January there, and have something like that. Although I do suspect, hopefully, I say hopefully because it would be far more healthy in the long term if we were to kind of gradually start making gains as gradually as kind of possible, kind of thing, rather than having these kind of big verticals rather that that kind of take you kind of up into these kind of crazy levels that cause these big kind of rejections that take some kind of prolonged pullback. And so I do suspect the uptrend to continue, and this kind of mini resistance here, if we can continue to get rejected, we could come back down to kind of $1.50 as kind of a psychological kind of round level that I do believe is going to be some good short-term support moving forward before we continue upward. We could, if this does seem to be thicker resistance, kind of under $2 there, and kind of like $1.75 perhaps becomes the kind of major resistance, we could trade sideways in this kind of manner until we interact with this ascending trend line again, as we try to briefly at the kind of nearing the end of this kind of big rejection that started back at the middle of April and lasted until kind of the end of April. It was good like 10 days, kind of pull back all the way to like kind of the 91 cent there briefly. Interacting with my ascending trend line from back in the COVID crash. And so when we turn on EngineeringRobo, we can see a new perspective kind of come into play here. We can see prices getting bullish again. We have these fettuccine lines supporting some key levels that I believe we could be interacting with if we continue to kind of pull back. Although, with these buy signals here, buy volume, we can kind of suspect prices to kind of continue upward kind of very quickly over the coming days. So with a super sell for hell flashing kind of back at the middle of April there during that kind of big rejection and pullback, we recovered very nicely, bouncing off of the 0.618 level there just above my zone around $1, interacting with resistance under kind of $1.30. $1.40-ish, kind of $1.38 there rather, was a significant resistance until we finally, dipped and then plowed through it, creating a higher high all the way up there to $1.69. Now some short-term resistance, and so with these buy signals in play, along with some longer-term buy signals like this cloud buy and super buy kind of months back in November of last year, we have some pretty long-term bullish support still, and I do suspect prices do continue upward kind of very quickly if we have this kind of pullback. I don't suspect it to last. If it does, I do believe we're going to hold sideways in a very tight range until we interact with this trend line. But like I said, we're quite bullish so far, it would seem. If we consider Cardano against the price of Bitcoin, we can see even more kind of bullish consolidation against the price of Bitcoin, staying sideways during volatility, interacting with resistance nicely, coming down, finding support along that Satoshi range, although we are printing what appears to be a lower high relative to the swing highs kind of back in the end of February there of this year. And so if we continue to get rejected, I do believe we can kind of come back down to perhaps kind of a level sort of along there. And so, I mean, I do suspect, I guess I see kind of like a little bit of a sort of mini support zone perhaps if we were to pull back in the kind of very, very short term, could be like another bounce level, could be around there. I don't see this as very significant support, but that could be a short-term bounce level if we come down to interact with it, and we could solidify that as support. Although that is there's not a lot of price action supporting that zone so far. Although, like I said, I do believe that could be a potential bounce zone. But like I was saying earlier, we could kind of continue to gain against Bitcoin like it's nothing, and so I mean we could very easily come back up and start closing just under or above my resistance around 3,097 Satoshi. And so at the moment we are still looking quite bullish, and we're just in the middle of, I believe, kind of a support and resistance zone, and so we are kind of a bit of indifference in the market at the moment. Turning on EngineeringRobo, along with the sacred feta zucchini lines, we have some more bullish signs and support found along these kind of key levels. And so, I mean, we have the buy 4 and moon. Buy 4 coming in at the beginning of this kind of consolidation against Bitcoin along that 0.618 level under this kind of resistance zone, finding support around the 2132 Satoshi level there. We have the moon supporting the breakout upward and allowing us to gain against Bitcoin, plowing through resistance. And so we have this 0.786 line kind of just below that kind of pink support zone here. And so I mean, I guess if we bring it down to that, this could be the bounce zone. I mean, maybe that would be the, perhaps a more significant kind of bounce zone there. But either way, this would kind of be the kind of full range that we trade in if we were to kind of come down to it, if this kind of retracement were to pull back kind of far enough. And so I feel like we could very much continue over the next couple of days, although if this resistance is significant enough and we kind of bounce off that, then I do believe we can definitely pull back to, like I was saying, that zone there. If we consider the fear and greed index for Cardano against the price of the US dollar here, we can see kind of a new perspective on kind of why prices are so sideways or so volatile and are so kind of ridiculous at the moment. And so, I mean, we can see we are way up in the greed zone. This is the FOMO zone. This is when traders are very greedy. They buy tops, they buy bottoms, they continue the rallies, and they cause prices to be kind of volatile up and down. In this zone is a key area to be taking profit. There's not tons of sell pressure above these levels. So typically, one of the two things that happens in the kind of FOMO zone is upon interacting with it, when we get kind of near it, it's sometimes could be a kind of big rejection, and we come back out of it, and then we look to interact with it again in the future. Although the other option in the FOMO zone is upon entering it, we kind of skyrocket to kind of crazier limits, and then we trade sideways against the very high sell pressure that is present. But if the coin is bullish enough, it will hold against the sell pressure of the FOMO zone, and it will maintain gains. And so the pumps are very volatile, and the dumps are very volatile up in this FOMO zone here. The fear and greed index giving you a very kind of key level of kind of a long-term investment strategy. If you were trading from the kind of fear zone here, say you're buying from anywhere from the kind of beginning of March of 2020 all the way up until the end of May of 2020, and so say your last buy-in was around kind of 5 cents end of May of last year, and you're like, oh nice, bought some Cardano, and you held it over the past 250 some odd days. Say you sold right as we entered the FOMO zone there, you would have made an 8x in that amount of time. Say you held through kind of all this nonsense, you're up currently 2,700%. So this is definitely a very good long-term hold. If you held through all of this kind of nonsensical sideways and accumulation. And so fear and greed index, you want to be accumulating in this green zone, and you want to be selling in this red zone. To kind of break it down in simple terms, I'll be posting a video in the future talking about the fear and greed index, and along with other all the EngineeringRobo kind of terms in kind of future here. If we consider the price of Bitcoin against the US dollar tether, along with the fear and greed index, we can see a new perspective kind of coming into play. We are interacting with resistance still. 57K has been proven to be pretty significant resistance so far for whatever reason, and so we haven't been having some trouble getting above it, and so we are getting slapped and beaten, just held right down from this kind of zone for whatever reason. And prices want to get bullish again, and so I mean there's definitely plenty of buy pressure in the market, and there's plenty of bullish incentive to be buying these dips, and smart money will always be coming in and accumulating, although there seems to be very key significant resistance just kind of above 56K and kind of all the way up to like 58K just about. So that $2,000 kind of gap of resistance does seem to be kind of preventing us from moving forward. I do believe perhaps we could kind of continue this retracement to a kind of very short-term kind of key level here, would be around perhaps 55,181. I do believe that could be another kind of level of support that we could solidify short-term if we were to come all the way back down. I guess the kind of 53K to just above 50, like just under 52K kind of thing, above 51.7 will be the next kind of midterm bullish zone. So, I mean, we could very well see prices print a kind of like W pattern kind of ish, say we like print something like that kind of thing. We could very well come down and re-interact with the 40Ks again ever so briefly before taking off more bullish than ever. Although I do believe we can find support in the short term. We do have these very scary looking sell signals present. The sell 2, sell 3, super sell would briefly, but sell 4 hell. And I have the super buy present again, even though all these other sell signals are present. We have the super buy, suggesting that we are still bullish. And so I mean, we just have to see where prices be. Although at the moment we do appear to be interacting with resistance, so there could be changes in momentum at any point. Watch out for EngineeringRobo's buy and sell suggestions. Try EngineeringRobo free with a link in the description. Subscribe here on YouTube. Check out all the social media down below. What are you doing with your Cardano? Are you selling? Are you holding? Do you trade Bitcoin? Are you more of an Ethereum? Are you more of a Doge trader? What do you do with your crypto? Thank you for hearing my analysis. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in for the next one.